Hi, everybody. Hi, Luminaires. How's everyone doing? I'm so happy to be here. I really enjoyed my little summer break, but I missed community so much. So I'd like to know before we dive into our topic today if you can hear me clearly as I have a different microphone on and if you can see properly. So if you can, let me know in the chat thread that you can hear and see. That's wonderful. Thank you, guys. It's always good to check, especially when you're highly sensitive to energy and you're going to be talking about spirits using technology. That can often collide. Hi. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, today I thought it'd be wonderful to talk about receiving information from spirit, which I think is something all of us do in different ways here in this community. But if you are new or consider yourself at the beginning of this journey and you want to receive information from spirit, this is a great place to jump in. Maybe get used to some of the vocabulary and how we're approaching things so casually. If you are new, hi and welcome. My name is Jamie Butler, and I'm the Everyday Medium. I consider myself the Everyday Medium because I take a lot of pride and joy in taking really complex, I don't know, lofty woo-woo stuff and normalizing it, just making it more simple, putting a little bit more humor into it. So when we are talking today, you will hear a few offhanded jokes, which I think are funny. And if it's not your kind of humor, I'm really sorry. I don't even know why I'm apologizing. I'm in a silly mood today. Hi from Tampa. Yay. You can say hi to my parents. They're in Clearwater. Okay. We're going to talk about receiving information from spirits. First of all, I want to get into how do we contact spirit? Like, where is spirit? I know, pause and think about that. And we're going to get into, do you believe in possibilities? Kind of like, what do you believe in? What are your limits? Because that can, cancel out your connection to spirit and receiving information. And then I want to talk about how do we receive messages from spirit clearly and concisely. And I have 3 really strong points to get into that. Yay. Oh, good. Thank you for figuring that out. Okay. Okay, so if you are joining me live and you have had moments, repetitive or singular, where you have contacted spirit and received messages, I would love to hear how that went for you, how you reached out to them, and what elements do you think that were at play that allowed you guys to connect? Because that's the whole big point of our today's talk. So let me know. I want to get into how do we contact spirit? Where are they? Because when we talk about being in communication, we're going to think about that in the way that we are in communication as humans. We know somebody's location, we get their phone number, we call them, we have their address, we drive to see them. So we have this concept of needing to know where they are so that we can be sure that we're calling or connecting or driving to the correct place to be able to communicate, to connect. So the first thing that I would ask if you are on this journey, or maybe you've been on it for a while and you're wanting more concise communication with them, is to really develop your connection, your meaning, your, I'll just call it words, description of where spirit is. This is where knowing what your belief systems are going to benefit you in your natural psychic or intuitive abilities. So slow down. Come back to first base. Where are spirits? So if you're with me, let me know. Where are spirits? Where are they? In my definition, I would say that there is, let's go down this rabbit hole. There are several locations that spirit reside. And spirit to me, even though singular, I mean it in a very plural sense. And I mean it covering different entities as well, as angelic, as multidimensionals, as your spirit guides, as family and loved ones. In my experience over the last 50 plus years of my life, 30 plus years of being a medium, is that there are different dimensional planes where spirit reside. And what I've come to know is that different dimensional planes, we can't necessarily label them as one being better than the other. So giving them numbers, sequential order is a little bit difficult, but it's something that we require as a human because it helps us place locations and concepts easily in our belief systems. So when I'm talking about different dimensional planes, I don't want you to get caught up with, oh, the ninth plane is better than the fifth plane, and I'm only on the third plane. And I just haven't found a lot of truth in that. What I have found is that there are different characteristics in each of these dimensional planes, and like does still attract like, same as on Earth. So similar frequencies will gather, and similar frequencies will express certain characteristics. So you can loosely, oh, how far do we want to do this? You can loosely describe each of these locations by possibly what they can provide. But please, I don't want you to get trapped into the this is better than that. And I think we do that. It's a very natural human instinct because we are striving to thrive. And so we're continually taught to pick what we believe is better. And we're put into language systems that identify what is best or better for me, and to judge and let go of what does not work for me. And then we just mistakenly apply that to our belief systems and how we want to communicate with spirits, which can hold us back. I'm hoping that makes some sense to you. So, Nana Rosebud is like planes. Like, what does that mean? Various levels of energy places? Yeah, you can call them dimensional planes, or you can simply imagine that in your head is like frequency attracting like frequency. But removing the concept that there are really rights and wrongs and betters and worses. It's just everything has purpose and beautiful harmony trapped within it, and like attracts like. So I do want to say this. This is what I was kind of hemming and hogging and avoiding. But I've come to notice in different books or in different people's expressions of conscious awareness or levels of consciousness that there is a certain sense of attraction to being in a higher set of frequencies. And I'll be the first to admit, like, I'm attracted to higher frequencies. I am very human and I am looking at the betterment of myself. You know, it's something I'm attracted to. I'm not saying that is a right or a wrong. I'm just sharing where I am. And when we're talking about like looking at the afterlife and saying afterlife is such a silly word because it's not after anything, as time is not linear, but it's terminology that we have, which ends up being quite confusing when we're talking about home, heaven, afterlife, the beyond. I don't know what you want to call it, but I want you to insert your word, especially if you have a religious belief system and you have a word for it, like insert that word because we're all talking about the same things. This conversation through the lens of religion is not going to hold us back from connecting. Because spirit, no matter what the belief system on earth or where you are, how you view things, there is still life after this life. Again, the word after, so cruel, so cruel. Time is not linear, but it's what we have. So in entering into the beyond, home, heaven, afterlife, whatever you want to call it, then we are held in a loving space of a transition. And then after a transition, we are not placed, but it's like your frequency, from what I understand, your frequency is attracted to others who are in the same frequency. It's not that you merge into others' identity, even though I will say we are all the same energy, all the same energy. All life force on earth is all of the same source. But I think it's a little bit clearer when we still talk about separate identities. And I think it's more comforting as humans to continue talking about separate identities. But your frequency does merge in with others who are vibrating at that similar frequency. And it could be a lesson that you're working on. It could be knowledge that you're seeking. It could be emotional wealth that you're holding. Whatever the commonality is, that's what's holding those energies together. And from what I understand from spirit is that you still maintain what we'll call independent consciousness from your incarnation and from all incarnations that you have, because you have to take into, and this might go against some of you who might not have the belief system of incarnations at this time, but when you cease to exist in a physical body, you also collaborate with all of your other incarnations energetically in the beyond, heaven, home, again, pick your word, please, place it there. So you are pulling from all of your experience. It's not just a single identity. Let's just breathe for a second. Rose is saying different planes give different experiences, and contrasts and energies give various feelings, emotions, and experiences. Yeah, I tend to agree to that. Just from what I'm learning from spirit and what I've been witnessing 30 odd years of doing readings and listening into so many spirits' transition stories, where they've ended up, how they view the beyond. I mean, it's all quite interesting. And so this is a combination, like piled together of all those stories, is how I've learned. Rose is like, me too. You're loving the high vibration. I know. Life around this life, beyond this life. Sweetly morbid bear. That is your definite. That's your word. I love it. Hi, crystals. Strange Fruit 2311. You are saying, amazing. I have found that as my vibration increases, anything that is out of alignment in my life feels way more exaggerated and harder to ignore. It's wild, isn't it? As you become more fine-tuned, you can recognize disharmony much quicker and easier, and it's louder. I have found that to be quite true too. Hey, Carol. The concepts of a hold-on or fractal helps me hold on to that concept. One of the best words, hold-on, means to be a part of the whole, but whole and in and of itself. So this is how our soul spirit is, very fractal. Okay, so your first object today, your place you're headed is, where do spirits live? Like, where do they come from? Where do they exist? Because when you can identify, even if it's a loose concept, but you have something put together, it's easier to direct your energy to the source that you're wishing to communicate to. Now, for those of you who are just like, I can't even wrap my head around this, you're talking gibberish, this is way too much for me, I would say, know what spirit you want to talk to. So if this is an angelic being, maybe I would do some research on them. I would take everything that I hear and read, even you listening to me, I would say I would take it with like a friend's advice. And I would really pay attention to what resonates. Like if you're listening to somebody talk like myself, or you're reading an article or a book, and a sentence or a phrase comes up and you just go, oh, woof, like it kind of hits you. Okay, then this is a resonating truth for you. Collect it, but know that truths grow as well. So you need to come back to it. And this is where we get into talking about belief systems. Like, do you believe in possibilities? Do you believe that anything is possible? Or do you have limits on it? Because that's going to cap you off from having an experience with your entity, guide, angel, like we were just talking about before. So if you can identify who you want to talk to, name them, see them in your mind's eye through imagination, through pretending. Guys, this is the first gateway drug to spirituality, is your imagination and ability to pretend. It doesn't stay in that category, but that's how the door opens. You swing it open through having an open mind and believing in possibility, which, by the way, is going to need your imagination. So let's befriend our imagination, pull it in, use that to launch us up into our psychic abilities, intuitive abilities, whatever you want to call it. So when you're thinking about your person, I want you to think about their face, their smile. Please don't bring up memories of them. It's not about going through the Rolodex of memories. And for those of you who are way too young, it just simply means to call up memories that you're fond of, roll back and call them up. I don't want you to do that. I just want you to see them as a person, not as the memory connected to you, because that's going to give you a more concise, clear message when you're communicating to them. Because if you're pulling up memory and you're like remembering the time, that maybe your grandmother made you the apple pie or whatever it was, how your father held your hand. Oh, what sweet memories. And you link through that, you might be pulling up other memories and not necessarily connecting to spirit. So it might be your head releasing some steam, which is what happens when you go to sleep at night and you have dreams. So we're wanting to bypass that and get directly into communicating to them. So either know where they exist, know where they lived, create your own definition, or think of who they are, what their face is, how they smile, maybe how they laugh, but leave the memories behind. Like if you're really into this and you're like, oh my God, I'd love to study this, like I want to get into this a lot more, this is the stuff that I comb through very intently. Like when I say comb through, I go through very slowly in class. And so I have a class coming, oh my God, it's coming up tomorrow. I have a class coming up tomorrow. That happened fast. It's a 16-week class and it's about learning how to trance channel. And so you connect to your spirit team, angels, so forth, multidimensionals, and you allow them to come close to you and use your body as an instrument to communicate through. And there's different levels of trance channeling, but it's all boiling down to communication to spirit, receiving information from spirit. And a lot of what I'm talking about today, especially knowing what your belief systems are, believing in possibilities, where your limits, we slow down, we identify them through class. And by the end of the 16 weeks, commonly around week 10, you are already in the practice of receiving messages and relaying them to others. So if you're interested in this and you want to like do a deep dive, that is possible. The class is coming up. You can also buy it on its own and do the work on your own. But I love having you live in class because we talk about what your experiences are, and I find that to be really, really valuable. Okay, where are they? That's the first thing, or knowing what they look like. What are your belief systems? Do you believe in possibility? What are your limits? You got to know what they are. And it's crazy. It might be something really small that you haven't thought about. And then all of a sudden you're like, am I afraid of that? You could be so driven to communicate with spirit and so open. You're like, I'm ready to receive. Your heart is clear. Everything is in the right place. And then it's like, nothing is going on. Nothing is going on. And you just kind of sit down one day and you're like, why is this happening? All of a sudden you realize, I'm afraid of what I might hear. And you're thinking, oh, this might be so silly. It's so stupid. I'm not afraid. I really want to know. But I am afraid of what I might hear. Because as a human, guess what? We've been able to keep secrets and hide. We can hide our thoughts. Some of us are way better at others. I don't tend to hide my thoughts very well. It's very expressive on my face. But that's comfort to know that I'm having an experience I don't want somebody else to know about, or I'm embarrassed, or I don't have the information. And guess what? I can hide that I don't have that information. I don't have to be as forthcoming. But when you're communicating to spirit, there's none of this. And it is a rocky road at the beginning to kind of get your sea legs on, to realize that, oh my God, what I'm thinking, they're hearing. What I did last night, they saw. I am completely open and vulnerable to them. And then it might click to you like, I don't want to hear what they have to say. Because as humans, we're taught that if somebody's going to communicate with us, then they have an opportunity to judge us. But I'll tell you right here, spirit has no interest in judging you. None. Zilch. What you did last night, good on you. Hope it was fun. They're not going to judge you. They're really here to help support you in making your decisions. You're in the driver's seat. So you got to get comfortable with that, and you got to like make that part of your belief systems, that that is how the communication is going to occur, or that's how it's going to be. I love these chats. Thank you. Keep them up. So let's talk about, how do we receive messages from spirit in a clear and concise manner? And I would say there are at least 3 things that I can think of off the top of my head. Well, I could probably go into like 10, but we're going to talk about 3. Number 1 is, when you find yourself in a position of receiving messages from spirit, stay neutral. Do you know what that means? That means you got to get rid of your opinions. Just put them in a little box onto the side. Put your judgments in there with them. Just throw them in there for a little bit. It's not time to analyze, measure, compare, contrast experiences. It's not time to like squeeze too hard and be like, you have to tell me this and direct something. Is be neutral. Be neutral. And it comes with this care less kind of an attitude. It's not a careless attitude. It's like it's all right. You know, I'm here. Let's go. You know you're physically safe. You have probably said a prayer, an intent. You've directed your energy. You know what you're doing. You are in control. So you are safe. You have addressed these things. Now it's time to stay neutral so that you can receive the information. Because if you are running through judgment and opinion, whatever the frequencies are that spirit is giving to you is going to be morphed and manipulated through those lenses. And by the time it arrives to you and you're like, I knew it. I knew that's what they were thinking about me, or you switched it to turn into some personal judgment or something to support your agenda for what you wanted to talk to spirit about. So if you're really looking at doing this in a very honest, clear, and concise way, is you got to come from it with a neutral standpoint. Oh my God, Crystal, I love that you're using dowsing rods. Oh, Bea, thank you. You know, you say the kindest and nicest words about class. I love that you enjoy them so much. This series is a must do. Jamie is awesome. This class teaches things you can't find anywhere else. Totally priceless. Thank you. Kylie Smiley. I'm constantly getting messages from spirit, but I find it almost impossible to not smear my ego all over them. Then I don't share them because I feel insecure. Yeah. Right? We have to look at our belief system of, am I even capable of doing this? Am I worthy of receiving messages that aren't mine? And then we can have a lengthy talk and battle, if you want to battle. We do this in class too. We have a lengthy talk about what is ego and what is spirit message. Because sometimes ego can really rise up and give you words and advice that are quite spectacular. But the difference in the two, and here's what it is. And so, Kylie Smiley, when you recognize the difference, and I'm guessing, I don't think I need to guess, that you're receiving messages and information that feel very uplifting, and that they're for the betterment of the person that you're hearing them about, or for the betterment of humanity, that's going to be from spirit. When you get ego messages that are trying to trump over, or it's almost like a little internal vocal tantrum, it's coming in a way that will say, you've done that wrong. You have to do it this way. It's more directive, it's more controlling, and it's more labeling. It will label who you are. You've been lazy at this. You're a dumbass. You're a whatever. Like, it will come at you. It's kind of a little bit of a mean voice. But you're like, oh, the information is so good. And you know what? I need that rally. So sometimes you need that kind of internal exchange, but it's not going to be from spirit. Spirit's not going to talk to you that way. Spirit's not going to label you. Spirit's not going to judge you. It is a way different kind of a conversation. I think when we're used to communication as humans, we're already in a position of what are they going to think about me? What are they going to say about me? Do they like the way that I look? You know, did I say the right thing? I don't know. I'm already nervous. So we have this expectation of self to perform in a certain way to get a pleasing response from a person. You don't need any of that when you're talking to spirit. It's wild. None of it. So, Kylie Smiley, which is such a great name. If you are getting that information that is lifting everybody, I hope that you find in yourself that chance to speak up and share that information. That's how it felt when you were talking about it. So staying neutral or having that careless approach is very important. And I will say, in my experience, that was the most difficult thing for me to learn. I know. Um, it wasn't the act of seeing spirit and talking to spirit. Granted, I did come in that way in life, but I wrestled with it throughout college and developed a career on it. So that was very interesting, finding my value and worth and pushing through imposter syndrome, things of that nature. But the staying neutral, I mean, everything in my life taught me not to stay neutral, that I needed to have an opinion. I needed to take a stance. I needed to know what I required out of the conversation before I entered into the conversation. I needed to know where my goals were and aim myself and my energy towards my goals. When you get into spirit conversation, all of that is null and void. So who are you going to be? How are you going to show up for a conversation when there's no end goal? Oh, Kylie Smiley, thank you so much for all this, Jamie. This is the first time I've been on your lives. Yay, welcome. I'm so grateful and blessed to be here right now. Oh, me too. Thank you for being here. And thanks for typing in. I love reading the chat threads. So a second thing I would say is to be receptive. It's that whole phrase, like you got to be open. But I think sometimes the word open is overused and it feels really vulnerable. Like you just open the door to all the weather that comes in. It's not really like that. It's being in receiving mode. Because a lot of us have learned traits from our care providers to be in giving mode. Like, what do you need? Let me get that for you. Oh, what do you, compassionate people, highly sensitive people tend to be more givers than receivers, and it's a little bit more difficult to receive. So if we're asking for messages or want to be in conversation, we have to be good at both. We're going to give our words and our frequencies, and we're going to receive words and frequencies, receive messages. So I would practice being on the receiving end, being receptive, being open. So when somebody gives you something, claim it. Wow, they gave that to you. Thank you. Thank you. And you could even practice the whole because I get really awkward when people give me things. I'm like, oh my God, it's a gift. This is so incredible. I love receiving gifts, but it's like I still don't really know how to go, yay, thank you, it's mine. I'm like, oh my God, this makes my heart flutter. I'm getting flushed in my face. This is such a special moment. Thank you for thinking of me and going out to specifically put this together to give it to me. Like, I will treasure this. So talk about what you're processing out loud when you're receiving. It'll help you stay in your receiving place a little bit better. True. Okay. The last thing, which I think we forget to do, is to ask for clarity. Hit the repeat button. Because there are times I'm communicating with spirit, and I'm sure you guys have been in this boat too. Throw up some hearts here if you've been in this boat. You tuned in, you connect to the spirit, and it's like an instant download. It's like crazy. It's like a pop, 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 pop. Like information is all inside of you, and you're like, oh my God, you totally know it, but the moment you know it, you can't explain it. Like you can't get it out of you. It stays deep inside of you. It was this really personal experience that you had in receiving that message, and now all of a sudden you're sitting there going, what do I do with this? And when I talk about it, it feels like deflating. It doesn't add up to how I felt when I received the message. Okay, so it happened really fast with high frequencies. So when that occurs, deep breath and say, let's repeat that. And just, you could make a statement like, hey, I'm human. It takes me a little while to process newer frequencies. This is what happens with the aha moments. So when you have an aha moment, that means that you are jumping to a much higher frequency and it just wafts all over you. You're like, oh my God, I get it. I know it. Oh my God, I'm going to remember this forever. Like 3 hours later, you're not so high on it. 2 days later, you're struggling to remember it. You're like, why? I know that was spectacular. Why am I struggling to hold it? Because it was such a high frequency moment. You don't naturally resonate there. So it was very difficult for all the cells in your body to maintain it. Unless you keep practicing and repeating and repeating and repeating to train your body to stay there, then it's easier when you get those quick downloads and those bright aha moments. You can grab hold of them. You're like, it makes sense. I can apply it now. So ask for the repeat. Like, come back into it and just say, okay, can you tell me that again? Can you show me from a different perspective? They're not going to get irritated that you're asking for more clarity. The irritation, I have heard this from a few spirits, the irritation is when you understood the message, you were clear with it, you repeated it, and the spirit team was like, yeah, you got it, that's great. You're like, all right, I got it. I don't like it. Tell me a different answer. There's not really a different answer. And you're disappointed that you got an answer that you didn't really want. And so you ask again, and you kind of ask in a different way to see if you get a different response, but the response is the same because it is what it is. So there can be a little bit of irritation there when you're asking multiple times and the response is the same. So this is you choosing not to accept what messages you received. This is why I like to approach anything that I'm reading, hearing, experiencing with like the level of my best friend telling me, and taking that which really, really resonates with me and knocks me over, keeping the rest of it. I don't throw anything away. I'm like, I hear you. I don't really resonate with that yet, or I just don't understand it. You know, I look forward to looking into that more. Or maybe as I get older, I have the bandwidth to hold that a little bit better. But if you're constantly asking the same and getting the same response, it's time to look at the response. Jamie Bailey. Jamie, how would you encourage someone who wants to speak to spirit and can, but has difficult time practicing with imagination and self-doubt? That is such an incredible question and statement, and very, very real for so many. You are definitely not alone in this. Not everybody has access to their imagination. Not everybody has access to pretending or taking something on. So I wouldn't direct people who have less access to their imagination to activate that part. I would then activate that left side of your brain who has overworked its muscle in its analogy, measure, compare, contrast, because you find creativity within those elements if you approach it, I guess, from a different angle, different perspective. So you can come at it through a very heady approach. And there's a homework that I like to do where I give you, I think we've done this, where I give you 24 hours, pen and paper, and I want you to write down everything that like comes through your head. Another way to approach it is writing everything down that your head says, you know, that's weird, or I feel like somebody was staring at me. So you write it down, I felt like somebody was staring at me, and then you look around and you'll probably notice that somebody was staring at you and you're like, okay, check. And so we start to log how the left side of the brain identifies your intuitive abilities, because it has words for it. It's just masking it under different tasks. So once you figure that out, and then the left side of your brain can see what's on paper and go, oh my God, look at you. Like 20 out of 25 things is actually really what was happening. And then so you can have this balance between left and right brain where the left brain starts to ease up a little bit to allow the right brain to have some more control. Because your day-to-day skills and everything are done in the left brain, all the analytical and the creativity and the imagination on the right brain, but it doesn't get daily control. So it's more of a passive player. And if we haven't activated it in a really long time, it can be very distant or feel non-existent. It's still there, but we can find it through logical thinking and then apply it through that path. So with the self-doubt, the self-doubt, imposter syndrome, self-worth, confidence, I think there's a lot that we can group in this self-doubt, is really interesting. I find that it's easier to work with if we find the source of where the self-doubt was taught to you. Naturally, as we come in as humans, we're wired glass half full. We're wired for community, and we're actually wired towards happiness. But we're taught how to be sad. We're taught how to be judgmental, and we're taught that we're not worth somebody else's judgment. And so we begin to then withhold certain experiences from ourselves because of what we've been told who we are by others. So I would take the time to look in the past, whether that's with a talk therapist, a psychiatrist, a intuition coach, whatever you feel comfortable with, and start unpacking, where does your doubt, when did it get born? Because it had to be born for you. It had to be given to you. It doesn't just come in with you. It's an interesting concept. But I find that that approach helps the most. And then when you start to recognize that you are worthy and everybody has access to spirit, subtle light energy, information within everything, then you're kind of not so special anymore. Sometimes it helps to say it that way. I believe we are all special and unique, but if we're looking at self-doubt and worth, it's usually in comparison to somebody else's skills and ability. I said for many, many years, who am I to do this? I'm just some little girl. And I still feel like a little girl on the inside who's like, what the F? What am I doing? Like, am I even old enough to do this? Like, am I even like wise enough to do this? But the more I keep peeling those layers off and approach this work from a very curious, childlike perspective, please don't confuse that with childish, childlike perspective, this communication, this efforts with subtle light energy is so much fun. It's so fulfilling. And then I find the joy and the happiness in it. And I'm like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to leave this alone. I don't want to leave it on the sidelines. Oh, where'd it go? Pisces Andreas MZ. When I meditate and try to connect, sometimes spirit makes me fall asleep. I don't understand that. It never used to happen to me. Yes, that can happen. So when you're receiving higher frequencies, that your cells, your physical body is like, woo, we've never done this before. The easiest way to kind of manage the high frequency is to turn the brain off, go sleep. When you go to sleep, your subconscious comes to the surface. Subconscious has access to the koodles of vibration or frequency. And so it's much easier for the body to be bathed in it. When you come to, many people say, oh, you still had the whole experience. You remember everything. I do. I watch and I witnessed that the frequency does stay in the physical body, but that translation from subconscious to consciousness might take a little bit. It might take a few more days. It might take you a few more sleeps to kind of bring it to the surface. But it's just a way of your body managing what frequencies are occurring. Janine is thanking Judy. Aw. So Janine, were you talking about protection? We should talk about that. You say, my heart says I'm safe. My head still trembles. Pretty sure it's from old Christian beliefs. Beliefs are really strong, and it's definitely a task, something to put on your to-do list on a daily basis to look at, why am I reacting to this? Why is this here for me? I feel resistant or I feel very accepting. Either way, easy or rough, neither path is like good or bad. It's just knowing why your energy and your body is responding that way. Because just taking your responses at face value might not always be accurate. Just as Janine is saying, like sometimes it can be old indoctrinated belief systems, it could be childhood wounds or trauma that you haven't really reconciled consciously, but they could be making really big decisions in your life. And so you might want this beautiful shift or change in your life, but you're not necessarily conscious or awake enough to make those decisions because you're allowing this undercurrent to control where you're looking and what you're saying yes and no to. When we're in class, I do talk a lot about protection. I like to call it a screen or a filter rather than the word protection. And I choose that because I've been taught by Spirit that when you are coming at something, communication to Spirit, communication to God source, whatever it is, and you are using protection. I got my protection. I got the shield up. I've done all these like incantations, everything. You are expending more energy and frequency to protect yourself than to actually have the experience. So it's more of adapting a belief system that wherever you choose to place yourself, you're receiving what you need to receive. There are no mistakes. There are absolutely no mistakes. We can even sift backwards through the Bible. We can sift through other religious texts where they talk about how there is no mistake, how everything is a lesson, everything is meant for you to experience. And so if we take that edge and apply that to spirit communication, and we put up a filter that says, I'm going to receive everything that I need and better, I learned that from Colleen. I really like the statement, or better. Then you still have that sense of being protected. Like, I'm not going to go through instances that aren't meant for me at this time. So when you develop that kind of language or that kind of belief system, then no matter where you can place yourself in a very neutral, receptive, open kind of energy pattern to be able to communicate to Spirit. Oh, good. Piscean dreams. Oh my gosh. I just thank you so much for spelling out your handle. It's Piscean dreams. You gotta leave it to a dyslexic to chop up a word in places where it didn't need to be chopped up and pronounce things so uniquely different than what they're supposed to be pronounced as. It's so funny. Hitting the microphone. Yes, Judy, don't you love how Colleen does it? Or better. Okay, so receiving information from Spirit. Direct a location, because we're going to use our natural humanness. When we have a conversation with someone, we tend to know where they exist. I'm going to call them. I'm going to go to their house. I know a location. So come up with a location. If you can't come up with a location in your own words, definition, through experience or whatever it is, then imagine what the entity or the person looks like without calling up any memories, because we want to have an authentic communication with them. That's like in September, I'm doing a 10-week class, and it's based on communicating to your loved ones. And so for the 10 weeks, you pick one entity, one spirit, one loved one, and you focus in on their frequency, and we go through the steps to be in conversation with them. And then you can take what you've learned in the 10 weeks and you can repeat it to your other spirit guides, angels, God source, things of that nature. But it's a very single path to take for you to learn your skills in communicating. So there's that. That's in September. I want to say it starts on September 7th. I'm not quite certain. But going back to our overview, know where they are or see their picture, no memories. And then check in with your belief systems, making sure that you are not the one who's actually holding yourself back. So you ask, where are my limits? Or you just simply ask yourself, like, why am I feeling this way? What do I need right now? That's a good question to ask. What do I need? What do I need right now so that I can get there, so I can have communication? Check yourself, your instrument. That's the one thing that is going to help you do the communication. And then you can get into staying neutral, care less, being receptive or open, and then remembering to ask for more information or to ask for a repeat. That's what's going to help you with that clear, concise understanding of what Spirit's saying. I will say one more thing for those of you who've stayed to the end. The moment that you realize you're communicating to Spirit and you get super freaking excited, I think you know what I'm talking about. You're like, oh my God, you heard something, you saw something, and you knew for certain it was not you. It could not be you. Something is happening and it's extraordinary, right? And you go, oh my God. That action right there can actually hang up the phone. I know, it's so disappointing. How do you stay in spirit communication, receiving their information without accidentally hanging up the phone? Be cool, man. Be cool and stay neutral. So when you feel the excitement boiling up, just go like, no, 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 no. Not right now. Just be cool. Stay where you are. Keep your breath rate the same. Keep your heart rate the same. If you need to, close your eyes. Close your eyes while you're talking. Stay calm. And then when it's all over, which might be in 5 seconds, 30 seconds, you might have a 3-minute conversation. When it's over and you come out of it, then hoot and holler. Then just go, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. But then write it down, right? Write it down so that you can go back to it again and again and again and help your body remember what that frequency felt like, so that when it comes to you again, your body goes, I remember this. We don't have to shut down, or we don't have to get so excited about this. We could just be cool. It'll be easier for you to go back and hit repeat button. Okay. Ooh, Piscean dreams. I will forever laugh internally when I read this now. Okay, your meditation on protecting the aura has helped me so much. Oh, yay. Thank you. Piscean dreams. God. Just love the way we uniquely each see the world together. Check yourself before you wreck yourself, says Regina. It's so funny. Oh, guys, I thank you so much for hanging with me today. I hope you have an incredible rest of your day. And if you find any of this interesting and you just want a little bit more of it, please join the series, join the classes. I would love to see you there. You can find me at jamiebutlermedium.com, the website, or you can go straight to learnitlive.com/Jamie Butler. And you can see all the classes and meditations and everything that we have there as well. Okay. Maybe I'll catch you over on another YouTube live, which we like to do on Fridays, but I was gone for a while and I missed you, so I came in today. But I hope you have an incredible rest of your day. Thank you, Carol. Thanks, Fiona. Bye, Judy. Bye, Piscean Dreams. Oh, bye, Regina. Bye, Sweetly Morbid Bear. Best handle. Take care, everyone.